Alright, so hopefully we are going to work this time. I do not know yet. We are back. I don't know if it's the same. I don't think it's the same video, but yeah, hopefully we're going. Alright, so when we last left off, I was going to make this low bottom edge here. And going to just start off with our add points tool and get that ribbed edge. I'm just going to make this a little bit wider. I just think for my own reasons, taste-wise, I think it'll look better if I do that. And now I'm going to pull this down, get these a little more sharpened with our curvature tool there. And then just add in probably with the add points tool, just these little lines. I'm just gonna, not sure why that didn't happen, so I gotta click it once, then a second time, and then weld. Enter. Hopefully these will, I will probably have to reattach these in a second. Oops, I keep forgetting that when you add a point to the edge, you have to add it and then come back and retouch it to do draw this out. So enter, touch, and then touch again, and then it works. Yeah, I work very fast in Moho, but most of the time you guys see me, I am talking while I'm doing it, so you don't really get to see my true speed. How I typically work. Maybe I can do some of that today. I don't like things to take forever to do. I mean, there are some times that it's enjoyable, for them to take a long time, but typically if I'm working for a client, I wanted to get that stuff done as fast as I can. This one has had a little bit of a lag in our getting stuff going, and that's all been my fault. Of course, I've had to wait for some music and some different things, the updates, but as I try to explain to everybody, if this is going to be something done to sync sound or music, I need that in its final form before I can really begin. Sometimes you can start some things like character design and stuff before you have everything, but if I don't have to, I would rather have everything ready to go. I'm just going through and deleting a few unnecessary points. Sorry, we have a lot of testosterone-filled people in my neighborhood, so if you hear any kind of ridiculous engine revs, it's them just getting their proof of manhood out on paper there. Okay, cool. So with that, let's go ahead and move on then to, what would I say? And I do have the chat up here, so if you guys, I'm just going to type here, hey, hey. If you guys want to say hey, hey back, or what's up, or I don't like the sound of your engine people in your neighborhood. Yeah, so cool. Now we've got that. So the sweater is the basic body, and that is done. We have no hair yet. We'll get to that. Let's go ahead and get the sort of pelvis area here next. And that's going to be under the, so let's just go ahead on top of the neck, I guess. We'll figure that out if we need to put it somewhere else. We're just going to say pelvis. It's a much more nice word than crotch or, butt or something. This will be just the pelvis area, and we're going to go ahead and imagine where the legs are going to be, and I'm just going to get everything else that isn't the leg. So pretty much here, that kind of thing. Her hands are not going to be in her pockets probably ever. This is just in this drawing, so I'm not going to worry about how that works out. Maybe like this, just in case she turns, there's a lower part of her anatomy that, comes down farther, i.e. the butt. And I'm just putting this up here to keep it kind of out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and peek these corners because there's no reason for them to be rounded. That's just Control P on the keyboard for anybody watching that doesn't know or wanted to know. This one will have a peak. These can as well because they're going to be intersecting right with that line. I think overall that's pretty good though right now. And obviously these won't have a visible line here, so we can go in and do our hide edges tool on all of these for now. Now, if her legs like swing open to walk or whatever, and we need to see anything in there, I'll add another section of line to this, like at another point, and then make that piece visible, but that's probably not going to be the case. All right, so on here, I'm going to add 2 points coming off. We can go ahead and enter that, and now we'll have this line. And I'm going to just make this get a little narrower toward the end, so it feels like it's a hand-drawn line more so. And that is essentially the pelvis. The legs, I'm probably going to put both legs over the pelvis, but this leg obviously will be in front of this leg in this position. It won't be that way. I mean, they'll switch places. One has to be in front no matter what, right? But they'll switch places as needed in the layer order. So we're going to start with the leg right, which is her right. And I always name stuff that way. So you say what the body part is, and then you give it the distinction toward the end. Sometimes it'll be leg right, you know, upper, and those things matter as well. In this case, I'm thinking, I don't see, I mean, she might squat down to pick the bird up or to grab some, I don't know. So let's go ahead and make it a separate upper and lower leg just for flexibility in the future. So I'm just going to come in here. And also this pelvis is the wrong color, right? So let's go ahead and sample. And I'm sampling from my other screen on this, so if it looks weird, I'm just going to go ahead and grab our select shape tool, select the shape, and then I'm going to go and sample this color, but I'm going to do it from my other screen, but it'll be the same as me just grabbing it off these pants here. Okay, so now they're the right color. And on that leg right layer, we're going to go ahead and draw the upper part of the leg here. So I'm just going to give myself a few points. I'm going to make this a bit rounded here for the knee bend. I'm going to make sure we have not an even number, but as close to an even number of points as possible. And this will probably change its positioning. And then we're going to go ahead and hide edges like these. And of course like these. And that's essentially it. I mean, it's very simple. When I'm not explaining it, you know, while I'm doing it, it takes a lot less time to make this happen. Okay, cool. So there we go. Just making sure these are somewhat straight. I can go back and adjust these at any time. All right, if you guys have questions, comments, or whatever, go ahead and start asking me in the chat window. If you can, like, subscribe. I do these things all the time. And now we're going to go leg right. We need to change that name, though, to leg upper right. Or thigh right, however you want to do it. So let's just go ahead and give a little space there. Come on now. There we go. Okay, now we're going to do the calf right, or leg lower right. And it's going to be kind of an opposite curve coming up this way, just so they overlap, and when they bend, they won't create a gap. So here I'm going to go, oops, make sure we're on frame 0, which I guess we are not for some strange reason. Go ahead and zoom in to make sure I can see that at all times. We're going to go ahead and add another vector layer. I'm going to call this leg lower right. And that can be in front or below. It just depends on, you know, what the situation will be, how she's going to be animated. It doesn't matter at the moment. If you want to go extra, you know, hierarchical here, just put the lower leg below the upper leg. Fine. It won't matter because those layer orders can change and be animated, you know, along the way as we go. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and draw that lower leg. I'm going to make a separate piece here within the same layer, though, for that ankle part, that cuff. Something like this. Cool. And then we can go in and obviously peak these, and these. That's just Control P on the keyboard. All right, with that now, these may or may not change. I'm also going to, you can't see it right now. I'm going to turn off that other part of the leg. I'm going to hide these edges here because if they do bend and make that apparent, we don't want that. And I'm going to make another cut, this little cuff here on the same layer as the leg. So leg lower right. Let's go ahead and turn this upper one back on. I'm not going to make a new layer. I'm just going to make a new shape within that layer. So with our add points tool, I'm not going to click right on this line. Otherwise, we'll get this to make a, a thing here. So I'm going to draw my shape. I'm going to stop just short of that, and we can adjust that after the fact. And then I can go in and grab my points. And you can grab all these at the same time if you want with your lasso tool like this. And then peek all of those at the same time, which saves some time. I'm going to turn off auto weld just in case because I don't want this guy snapping and welding to that. Let me see, I probably do have it off. Well, it's on. I'm going to turn it off for now. It's mainly for putting your end points together. Sometimes it works this way. I just turn it off in case it's going to. Some things I also notice, I notice in Moho that they work sometimes and they don't in others. So I just go with it. For the most part, it's very consistent, but sometimes it's a little weird. All right, so I'm going to select this shape here. I'm going to go ahead and sample the color of that from my other image, but I cannot do that. Hang on, let me zoom out here. I've got to be able to see both on my screen here so I can see it on the other one. So with that selected there, I'm going to go and sample my fill from my other screen. And we have, it's just like sampling from here, except for this screen I'm working on. It doesn't let me do it. It's weird. It's a different resolution, so it doesn't know where it's sampling from is why. Okay, so that is that leg. If we wanted to, we could copy and paste these sections of this leg. Up to you. We could try that. Let's go ahead and try the leg lower right. I'm just going to duplicate it then. We're going to change it. Make sure you rename them right away or you're going to get really confused. I'm just going to put this here since it's behind that one. I'm going to grab the shape. The problem is I have not adjusted my origin points yet, so these are going to be all screwed up. But the leg lower left, we're going to tell it, use the origin point from here. Grab that layer, shift it over, and then I'll have to reposition the points, but you get the idea. This is pretty much the easiest way to do this in a speedy manner, a timely manner, I guess. So just going to move these around until they are right. Just like that. And not sure exactly where this one goes, but so I'm just going to sort of approximate, its positioning. And then we could take the leg upper right, right-click it, duplicate it as well, change the name immediately to left, pull that down to the above the other one, and obviously we need to change its origin point to here and move the layer over, reposition it, and so on. And you can see this saves a lot of time because you're not having to make the piece again completely from scratch. You just have to reposition your points and stuff, I'm not exactly sure where these are or need to go, but I can adjust that when we actually do our animating or whatever needs to happen. I'm just going to pull these in now to the correct place on this side. So like I said, we just saved a bunch of time, and I'm going to adjust their curvature here so they're not too off and weird, and they're positioned just a little bit more. And I wish I could do my recorded videos this fast as far as working through a project, but the problem with that is I need to explain because if I don't, you won't get it. So yeah. So that's pretty much it for the legs there. And then the shoes, not sure how big I want the feet or how big I want them to stay. But we're going to make them essentially this size and shape just so I have something to work off of. For now, pockets here, I don't know if I want to include yet. I don't think she's going to need or have pockets. I'm going to go back to my pelvis here, and I realize now that it probably should be on the top because we are losing this middle line here. So I'm going to put it above the legs, and that line will come back. And I think it'll look better if that line is there. Cool. All right, so let's go on to the feet now, which will be, in my opinion, below the legs. So above that neck layer, I'm just going to put foot. And see, this is where I need to decide if I'm going to have a foot that's morphing from left to center to right, or if I'm going to have switch layers. Not sure yet. So I'm going to do probably both of them looking like this, her left foot. So foot, left, I think. I don't know. You can always add it later. You can change it later. Like I said, they could be switch layers. They could have a dial, you know, that morphs them into from one shape to another. It's fine. Just however you need to work when you get there is how I sort of look at it. And it can change, you know, from the time you start or originally build the character to when you're actually animating it, because, yeah, things simply can change. I know, very deep, right? Not really, it's just the facts. And no, I didn't actually mean that as if it was deep. For those of you who don't get humor, I was just joking. Okay, I think that's fine. Just square that one off slightly again. And do we need a sock? Maybe, because I don't, you know, an ankle. Let's go ahead and do one. This will be ankle left. And it's going to go behind the foot, so I drag that down. And now this is just going to be like a rectangle, essentially, that can come behind those. Just going to grab all of this. I'm going to go ahead and Control P the whole thing. It does not matter if these are, and you can change those back if you want to Control M like this to round off that particular point instead of making it peaked. But these don't matter because they're not going to be seen anyway. They're just, like I said, emulating that ankle that we're going to get that flashing off on this side. We're eventually going to see that on that other side too, depending upon the foot direction or shape, but we're just going to leave it like that. I think for organization reasons, I'm just going to grab both of those and I'm going to group them together just as a group, not combine the shapes. And we'll just call this foot L. Close that up. Let's see, neck, back color. I think all of this is fine. I'm just going to scroll out or zoom out here a little bit to kind of check everything. And I think we should start on the arms. Now the arms, I can create the arm here, but then I'm going to reposition it so I can actually make a hand and it not be... Excuse me. I think I'm allergic to work. So that's not, you know, by default in the pocket or anything weird. This is going to have to be a hand that we can swap out, you know, hand shapes and stuff like that on. So in this regard, because they look like they're mostly behind, I'm just going to make the arm behind the sweater. So above the pelvis here. And we're going to make another layer, and we're going to call this arm upper left. And I'm going to make both arms based on this particular arm shape. So we'll start at the corner here. This is going to be the upper, so I'm going to come down to a certain point. I'm going to round it out here, and I'm going to bring it back up and round it out like this. We can go in once again and adjust our curvature to get that more correct. In fact, I think that one might need to be peaked, as well as, let's turn off these handles because I'm kind of confused as to where my points are. Peak that one, and I guess peak that one, yeah, because this one's going to be our curvy one, or our rounded one. This one can be rounded a little more as well. All right, cool. So now I'm going to steal the color from our shirt over here by selecting its shape and then going and sampling from my other screen to make sure that matches okay. And on this sleeve, I'm going to go ahead and hide this edge and this edge. All right, so that's it for the upper arm for now, because I think I'm going to put this line on the lower arm, this little crease in between the two. So now, above that one, we're going to go with another testosterone. We're going to go with another, I'm going to call this forearm left. I don't know why people have to have trucks that make so much noise, or motorcycles. I don't mind, cars that make noise, but when you're in a residential neighborhood, people might be recording music, might be doing podcasts or streaming, or might just be trying to sleep or just have a nice day. And that rev kills me, because, are they revving it at a girl walking down the street? Also not cool, dude. Cringy. That's the word, right? Creepy, cringy, and rude. Congratulations, you can afford a car or a loud car, but why? All right, anyway, so back to this. Let's get the forearm. And I'm seeing there's a cuff on this side, so I might have wanted to make these based on that side, but what I'm going to do is just do something similar for both sides, and I'm going to make a shape. Something like this. There is a cuff there. It's just a very small one I'm noticing now. Make sure we attach that. I accidentally clicked away. Once that is done, we can come in and peek these corners. I'm going to grab that and Control P. This one will be Control P. When you go to someone's house and use the bathroom, they really enjoy the fact that you Control P. All right, and we're just going to move these to here, curve that, stretch that so it's nice and curved, this one as well. All right, and then I'm going to hide this line and this line, but we want this little crease in here somewhere, so I'm just going to go in with the other add points tool again on that layer and just add that in. I want to make sure that that's going to show, so what I need to do is click on my create shape and make sure it's just a stroke, and click there, and now we have that line, which we can go in once again and peek those ends down, or pinch those ends down. Readjust some of my curves, get this a little more accurate. It doesn't have to be perfect, obviously. We're just drawing it, we're just doing it from scratch in our own way, whatever. This is just a body type or shape or whatever that I created to use as a guide. All right, so now we want the cuff of that forearm. If we wanted to, we could put this on the same layer. I don't think it'll be problematic, but let's go ahead and just go ahead and add a shape within this. If it becomes a problem, we can always cut it and paste it to a new layer and go from there. But for now, I'm going to make it part of this forearm. Just don't click on the other lines where they weld together. So perfect. And then I do want to change the color of the ribbing here and of that little cuff there too. Let's find out. They do have lines, so I'm going to put a couple of lines in there using my freehand tool. I'm just going to say, hey, right there, maybe right there. And I know we can't see them, but if we hide the body, as we do in Italy and New York and places like that, I'm going to go and hide my, where's the sweater at here? Boom. And the ribbing at the bottom of it, wherever I put that, right here. Now we can see where we did that, that cuff, and we can move that around however we need. I'm just going to grab that point that is unnecessary. There's a couple of unnecessary points happening here. I make those all the time, by the way. I hear that all the time, that most of my points are unnecessary. Cool. Right there. You can straighten those out by hitting Control M. They will sort of relax the curve, you know. There we go. Control M on this guy, probably on this one. I think we have a couple of extra points there we don't want, so Control M that guy. It resets the curve. It's also like when you peak a curve, this is the one that adds the curve back in. So I just added an extra point right there too. All right, so let's get that the right color. This cuff, I'm just going to select the shape of it here and make sure that we're looking at it over here, and then I'm going to go and sample it from my other screen. Boom. And I'm going to do the same thing for this sweater ribbing on the bottom, so I'm just going to click on there and sample this from my other screen, which you would normally be sampling from here, from your own screen, but because of the way my monitor is working. And we don't have our other arm in yet, so what I'm going to do is take the arm we just made, the upper to start with right here, and we're going to duplicate that layer, arm upper, and right click, duplicate layer. We're going to immediately change that to right. If you don't name your layers right away, you're going to be so lost. I have done that. I've been there. I'm there all the time. And we're going to take that one and we're going to flip it horizontally and move it over until it looks the way it should. And then I'm just going to leave it sticking out farther. I don't mind that. I don't know what's going on here though, so I'm going to turn off my background image real quick. And for whatever reason, oh, this one's just over it. So I'm going to take this image and move it over. I was like, why is that white? Okay, cool. Turn this back on. And I'm going to leave the arms the same size. So I'm not going to squeeze this one in to match that one because the arms should be the same size technically. If we were using her at an angle or something like that all the time, one would be a little smaller, but we're not. All right, if you guys are enjoying the video, let me know. If you have questions, comments, please let me know. I feel like I'm alone on an island here, so if I get comments and a little conversation going, it always makes me feel better. Cool, so now we're going to take this forearm left, and you can see that the origin's way off. I'm just going to fix that right away right here, and we're going to grab the reset origin to somewhere here. I'm going to make sure on the sweater, I mean, it doesn't matter where this one is. Let's stick that toward the bottom. We probably should do this on all of these layers, to be honest, just because our origins are all over the place. That doesn't matter unless you're going to animate the layer, but when you move a layer, it's really wonky if it's not in some way that's gives you predictable results, I guess is a good way to put it. Okay, so that upper arm should be there. Pelvis should be around there or something. And the leg upper, you can see these are not on, so I'm just fixing those real quick while I have the tool in my hand. That one's okay, but not great. That one's fine. And the foot, obviously not good. And if you set it for the folder, you should open it up and set it for the pieces inside the folder as well, in case you were wondering. The neck now obviously should have this kind of at the base of the neck where it would meet the back, and then the back collar doesn't matter tons. I'm just going to stick that around there. Okay, so with that done, let's go get this forearm left copied over. I'm just going to duplicate that, duplicate, and call it forearm right. And then we're going to take the layer and we're going to flip it horizontally, move it over, and figure out exactly where that should really call it foot R. You want to relabel these things inside of it as well, because that'll become really confusing to see a group called R, but the thing inside of it is L. These are all experiences of my own. So I'm just going to flip that whole group over and pull that over, you know, something like that. That works. And now back to, I think, the head work here, because it's missing a few things. All right, so with that, let's just start making... I don't like these eyes. They're really kind of Disney-ish or a little too Scooby-Doo. We'll see. I'm probably going to do something similar, but maybe more appropriate for the video. It's really supposed to have kind of a more of a watercolory look to it, which we will get to. But for now, I'm just getting all the lines and parts sort of more mapped out. I'm going to leave that hair probably alone for the moment, and I'm going to come in here above the head layer and start, working on maybe what these eyes could look like. I have no idea what I'm going to do here, but I'm probably going to start with something kind of similar, maybe not so big and open. So something maybe kind of like this. I'm probably also not going to have this big white eyeball. I don't know. Or at least not, what do you call it? A big line on the bottom like she's got eyeliner on or something. I'm going to peek these end corners. And then we can worry about the curve of this from these parts. I'm going to go ahead and turn off, like I said, these bottom lines. And I think it will just look a little more kind than I had it. Plus, I'm going to make the eyeball probably just straight white for now. And then that will work. Let's go ahead too and grab the line width tool here. And for some reason, I put this on the head layer, which I don't want. So I'm going to grab this whole piece and cut. And I'm going to create a new layer here. New vector layer, and call this eye right, and paste that in there. Now I can come in here with my line width tool and knock these down a bit. I think that looks a little better. Now this is going to wind up getting grouped with the pupil and all that, to where the pupil goes behind like the eyelids. So to do that, I need to just create I'm going to group it with itself. I'm going to call this eye right. I'm going to set its origin point while I'm thinking about it to the center. I'm going to do the same thing with the actual eye right eyeball opening part. And then above that, now we're going to create a vector layer. We're going to call this pupil. And I'm going to create a circle in here. And I don't know if I'm going to make it off to the side here. Probably not, but I'm going to just average the size of that by doing that, and probably just make this one black for now. If I want to put a iris of some kind in there, then I'll make it more difficult. I probably will, because it'll look better if it's a little more of a multi-dimensional eye and not so simple. But then again, it just depends on what I'm doing in the end with the actual complete video. Okay, so this is going to be my eye right for the moment. One thing I want to do is make this pupil not go past the eyeball. So we're going to mask this by just coming in here to masking, hide all. Okay, and then we go back down to that bottom layer and we say exclude strokes. That way now everything's good. Is that easy? I'm also going to center my origin point of my pupil on the pupil. And now when we move that pupil layer around, it will be masked by the eyelids there. So look kind of real as it moves around. I'm just going to move it to the center more like this. When this is off, you can see kind of what I'm going for. And then we're going to take this entire eye. I'm going to close it, right click, and we're going to duplicate that. And then I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to move it over to this side. And I realize the head shape isn't exactly working with this, but the head's going to be more straight on so that we can get a full rotation out of it. So if I draw it completely to one side, it's going to be a little weird when we go from one side to the other, because I'm going to have to make a much more extreme motion to get it to turn left than if it's already somewhat to the right, if that makes sense, or vice versa. Okay, so with that now, we're going to make another layer on top of that called nose. This is going to be the nose layer, if you didn't know that already. All right, so I'm just going to draw the nose from here. It's a little piggish. I don't really care for that, so I think what I'm going to do is make her nose just a little bit kinder, maybe like that. We do need to create this stroke here, so I'm going to add something happened. There we go. And we're going to go to stroke and create shape, and there we go. This can be thinned out overall or just one line at a time. Just depends on what we want later. We'll see, but I can set it up this much for now. I'm just trying to get a shape, and this is going to need to be a little more evened and frontal, so I'm just kind of doing something close to what I might want from the front. And then I'm going to move it over. So we're just going to grab the origin point, stick it right in the middle, and then the layer, and we're going to move this over essentially to what the sort of front view would be to some degree. I'm going to adjust this, of course. And I guess, I don't know if we want nostrils or not. So this is where all these decisions are going to be made. I'm just going to do like a three-line nostril there, and I'm going to go to our create shape, grab it, and create it. And then we go to our line width tool and really knock this way down. So if you guys are following me, just not following along, but you know, I don't expect that. But yeah, ask me some questions. You know, let me know what you think. Hopefully our video is still going and not dropping out or anything. I know we had a bunch of people and then all of a sudden I didn't, so I'm hoping that's not a result of that. So with that now, I'm just going to, on the same nose layer, we're going to copy and paste those. I believe I can just do that like so and move those over. And that's essentially our nose front view. I'm going to move these a little more evenly, something like that. So that way when this is off, you get that kind of a look right now. This will all be worked out. The head shape's a little bean shape, but it won't be. And I need to make a mouth similar to this one now. So another layer. We're going to call this mouth. Oops. And we're going to draw the line. Just going to go with 4. They don't speak during the video. However, expressions will be important. So a couple of mouth shapes like an O shape, a smile, a frown. And that will be one mouth that can go smile or frown. But then anything that's like an O shape or ah, I'll have to do either as a separate mouth or a more dynamic version of this mouth. To do that and build it all into one, I'll probably do an upper lip and a lower lip and then an inner mouth dark shape. So I think that's what I will wind up doing here. So with that, like so, I'm just going to branch off from this spot. And this is going to be essentially the upper lip. Let's make sure that welds. I think my auto weld is off. There we go. So we turn that back on. And then we need to thin down all of these lines to something like that, I guess. And then adjust the color. And then I'm going to take the lines off of the outside of that mouth. So what I need to do is select my shape here. And then we're going to grab the color from that mouth here. So the fill color is going to be something like that. And the stroke color can stay black. Now the stroke width, we might beef up just a little bit like that, because I'm going to hide the strokes that are actually surrounding the lips here. And then that point also needs to be peaked like this. So So we go back and get rid of these other visible strokes here. And that is our upper lip. We can even take the width of the corner ones down a little bit more. Something like that. That's our upper lip. And then we can create the bottom lip with the same type of situation here. I'm going to turn off the upper mouth. I'm going to call that upper lip, actually. And then we're going to create another layer and drag it below that one. And call it lower lip. And then I can... That sound was me typing with one hand. I think I'm going to attach this one there because what's going to happen is we're going to make this forward, and I don't want that to be weirdly off. All right, so with this now, we're going to just grab the whole thing. I believe something might not be connected here. I'm not sure. But we're going to do both, and then we're going to create the shape. And it's going to create using this pre-selected color. We're going to go back in here now and hide these lip lines that are unnecessary to see. And then we're going to thin out the other ones here to be the same size as the mouth. They do not need to be thick at all, just present. Something like that. And it's need to make sure that this color on the bottom does exist, which it may not. We have this, but we don't have anything else, so that's not cool. So what I need to do is go back and create shape with this guy and this guy. Connect and create, and then I can turn off these guys again. It's a little tricky. It's a little confusing, but if your lines weren't connected, which this one over here I don't believe was, that's why it was doing that. So, all right, cool. That should be good. I'm going to zoom out, turn off my background image. That's just a Control U. I'm going to turn on the upper lip, and everything should be right. I'm going to turn my display, though, to turn off the GPU caching so we can see everything in a more clear way. And if we select this and click off, you can see now kind of where we're at. Now this is not how she's going to look, but we're getting closer. I'm going to grab both those layers and I'm going to move them over using our layers here. Change the origin points of these. We're going to have to resort all of the position. You can see how that wonks out because we have two different origin points for each one of those. So I'm going to fix that essentially in the same place. Grab both of these now and move those over to a better spot. The head shape will change. Everything will look better, I promise. All right, so Control U, back to turn that back on. I'm just going to need some very thin, nice, kind eyebrows. So we're just going to add another vector above. We're going to call this brow right, and just going to make probably a 3-dot or 3-point eyebrow, something like that. And then we have to come in and create the shape for that. So we click on that and make sure it's just on stroke. Create shape. It's a bit thick. So if we select the line, we can come in here to our width tool. Now this is something I'm telling everybody to select it first, but if we select the line and then we come in here and select line here, we're only going to get one point at a time. If you want the whole thing, either select the move tool or the select points tool, then go on to the width tool and adjust the line width and make it just a little bit wider. We can take that brow right now and right click and duplicate that layer. And now we're going to just come in here and change that to left. And then, of course, I'm going to come in and make sure my origin is in the right place, which it's not. We're going to do that for the other brow also. And on this one, we're just going to flip it right here and get it into a kind of a common, position. I realize the expression is over here, but we can do that with an expression later. I just want to get a front view, essentially, of her face. Like I said, this is very Scooby-Doo, so a lot of this is going to change, but you get the idea. All right, so now we need to make some pieces of her hair. And making another vector layer, we're going to call this hair right. If you guys are watching, say hello. And I'm just going to probably create, well, we're going to need to make a hair back as well. But for now, let's just make a right side of the hair that's essentially going to come from here. And you can make this in any way you want, but I think because this is going to be relatively simple, I don't have to mess around with it too much. This is going to basically be our hair right piece. So something like that. We can come in and peak all of our particular points to make those make more sense, like this guy here and here and here and there. And then hide our lines for any of that stuff that shouldn't be showing. Then we can, of course, come through and extend any of these lines that should have been drawn that aren't right now. I think you guys know what I mean by that, I hope. All right, and then obviously come in with the line width tool and peek out some of these. I'm going to make those go all the way gone. And then the others, I think I need to probably just thin maybe a little bit. Not sure just yet, but if we want to, we select the whole line, and we can even select this guy and this guy with the shift click, and then adjust the line width tool to, kind of adjust that line weight. Yeah, for the most part, that's pretty good. That's our hair right. Now, there is no shading here or anything. This is just base flat color. Not sure how I'm doing all of that just yet either. So on top of that now, we're going to want to go make another vector, and this is going to be hair top. Now remember, I am creating this from a kind of more of a right view. This can change. It probably will be shifted over a bit once she is kind of mapped out. So I'm just going to make this overlap. This is going to be essentially the top of the hair. And I'm just making a piece that can be sure that those don't weld together like they just did. So auto weld is probably best to turn off in this particular moment. Also zooming in keeps those from automatically welding as easy because they don't appear to be as close together to the computer. All right, so then we can come back in here and peek some of our points again. This is real quick and easy once you get used to doing it this way. I'm just using keyboard shortcuts, Control P to make that quick. And then we come in and just hide any lines that shouldn't be showing. That one's probably okay. I like this kind of coming over because it hides that line that we may or may not want. These obviously should be hidden there. Honestly, if we want, we could maybe add another point right here to extend this line out and make sure that that one took. Okay, and then we could unhide this section. So we now have that little bit, and then we can taper off stuff like that. And obviously this is in front of everything, which we don't really want this part to be. So the way we'd manage that was I would probably end the top of this like somewhere here, and then worry about this being on the left side. So let me just do that. I'll just get rid of these points like this, and this will be more on the side of her head, so this could still be top. We would just need to hide that line and everything will work out. And then I'm going to go ahead and extend some of these back, not as fully as to the edge, but just like so. There we go. And then this one could come out maybe a little more like that. Obviously your tapering will come in here like that. The farther back, the more tapered they obviously would be. And there you go. So that's, you know, one way of doing it. And like I said, when we go to change her from the front view, a lot of this positioning and all that will change. So now we need to do hair left, which quite possibly will be just like the hair right, but we do want them to look a little different. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a vector here and put hair left. And sometimes your hair can be 3 pieces, it can be 20. It just depends on what needs to move in front of what, how dynamic or long or whatever the hair needs to be. It's up to you. That's up to the character mostly. So we'll just kind of come down here, creating this part. I'm just going to make a similar bottom to this that maybe goes like this. You know, what we would consider the left side there. That is obviously going to at least go behind the top. It'll definitely go behind the hair right for now, if it ever traveled over there. And then we peak all of our things. Now you don't have to be on the hair curves to peak these, just select a point with anything really, and you can peak those. I think that one needs another point right there, just so we can continue with this sort of curve type shapes. And then we can grab stuff like this and peak it, and grab that and peak it. Move these however they need to be. I know that that section will never need to be seen, so. Alright, so for now, this hair would be like behind the head. We don't really need to worry about that just yet, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. We are going to have to put a back piece on here too. Once we make her looking forward, you know, we need to see what that's going to look like. But the hair left, I think for the moment, I am going to move behind all of the head pieces. So like that. Just for now. It should be behind the sweater as well. Like that for the moment. And then I think we can start working on getting the head pointed to the front, because I think overall everything is pretty much there. I think that's pretty good. So on this hair left piece also, I'm going to draw one line just for the sake of that line being sort of accounted for. And that looks pretty good. Maybe this one too, just a little bit to give it a little more detail. And then we can narrow this one out, maybe even a little bit here. You can't see it, I know, but I'm just doing the same thing I'm doing right there. Cool. All right, so let's turn off our background image and start figuring out what sucks and what doesn't. So this hair needs to be not in front of the neck somehow. And this is going to be like the issue the whole time, you know, what needs to be where. So that hair would need to also be behind the neck even, like that. So you're going to play around with this constantly. Back and forth, you know. Line weight is going to be a big deal here. So I'm going to go with this hair section. I'm going to grab everything about it. And we're going to take this line width down. It looks like I have multiple shapes on there, which I don't want. And I'm going to try and figure out why. I'm going to go grab my shapes. And this one is different from this one, apparently. I'm just going to delete that one. You can accidentally do that, get multiple shapes on the same shape, so be careful. There's one, in fact. All right, so with that selected, now I can come in here and readjust our line width to about a 3. Let's go back up to our hair top. Hopefully this looks like it has multiples as well, so I'm just going to kind of figure out what's going on with that. You select toward the outside, sometimes you can delete those and not have a problem Sometimes those are necessary though, so it's hard to say. I'm going to turn down this stroke and see what we're left with. So obviously we have more than one. We're going to delete, maybe not that one. I'm going to try and find the other that's causing our problem. There we go. All right, that was a pain. I hate when it does that. I don't know why it automatically does that, but it does. Okay, and then now for our hair right. But don't be afraid of this because of something like that. It's just annoying. You just have to come back here and pick around until you grab the thing that makes the difference. You know, the actual stroke. There we go. Looks like there might even be another one on this one. There we go. So now I can select this and turn my strokes back up to 3. Yeah, it's a little weird and annoying. I do agree. If you wind up getting multiples like that, it'll be pretty apparent when you try to go and do stuff with them. You'll just have to somehow select them and delete them. So now the head, let's get back to that. I'm going to get our head shape. This says 3, but it doesn't look like a 3. It's probably deciding this based on the overall size of that particular piece. Okay, and I kind of want to get the head a little closer to the body, a little less long of a neck. So with the head, I'm going to also put the head, the hair, all this stuff right here. I'm going to group that for now together. We call it head. Eventually, I'll probably take the hair out of that group. And then we're going to move that layer down. Give her just a little less of an elegant neck. And I'm going to go with hair left, which I believe is the one way at the bottom here. And we're going to move that one down to match and stay with that. The pink is not how it's going to be. It just happens to be the color I had selected. And that color, I think all of that stuff is pretty fine. I think that's okay. All right, so we want to change the face shape to a more frontal face shape. So I'm going to go and grab the head here and start working on that. That's something I don't like. Now the magnet tool could work well here. Just going to make sure this is sort of sorted out. The mouth will need to change its angle. I think overall this is all right. I don't want to make her too round. So I'm going to try to get the face a little more even. And then we're going to shift the whole thing over. So grab the face here, move that a little more straight on. I think that's better. And then I'm going to grab all of the pieces above that and hopefully move those to a bit more straight on. And then the hair left, move that over. Yeah, if you guys are watching, say hello. I will chat with you. Okay, so what are we doing? That's not horrible. Let's grab the mouth here. I don't mind it being at an angle to a degree, but I think it's a little extreme of one. So upper and lower lip, we're going to group those together. I'm going to call that mouth. We're going to center our pivot on that. I'm also going to check the pivots on the other lips. Yep, the separate lips, they're fine. But on mouth, now we're going to take that layer and rotate it just a bit like so. And I'm going to change the hair color to start with. We're going to start dialing her in a lot more. I think there's a little too much emphasis on this side of the head, so it looks like, you know, her head's a little weirdly warped. So let's get the hair left colored first. I just want to look at the color here, and with that selected, that shape, we're just going to sample it from the real one. I'm going to do the same thing with the other hair colors, just so we're not looking at it like it's pink. So here right now, I'm just going to grab this piece, sample it from the other as well. And the hair top, we'll do the same with. Alright, so now that's a little better. Hands we will have to do in a second. Overall, I think she's done as far as any of this other picture is concerned. There's the shoe color, so I guess we could grab that. So the feet will open those. And I'll grab the foot R here, and we will change its color to match this one. And the foot L will do the same thing. Alright, cool. Alright, so I'm going to turn off this original because we don't need it anymore. In fact, we can just delete it altogether. And you can see how I've changed the head and the positioning of it quite a bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that. We don't need the layer. And now I'm just going to worry about straightening out this head to feel a little better, a little more correct. So the hair is the biggest thing, I think, right now. And I think what I can do is push this bit over, exposing some of the eye. I think that already helps a lot. This may be a little more like that. Not exactly sure where I'm going with it, but you know, it'll play out. Alright, I think that's kind of okay in comparison. It's a more straight on view. It's not perfectly straight on, but that's alright. Doesn't need to be. We're going to go with this hair right now, and I think that should probably even come in a little bit now. And maybe even trim that up a little bit. Here, I'll fix the top in a second. Make this slightly bigger and push around a few more points at once. I will adjust all of this as we go. Something kind of there. It's not as full, but I think that is fine. And I can go in, obviously, one at a time and make those more correct. Oops. You can be as tedious about stuff like this as you want. Perfectionist, but, you know, don't waste your time, though. And just add one more point, probably in here to give a little curve still to that situation. However you want to manage stuff like this. I think that's fine at the moment. Now, I know it's not as full as it looked before, but I think it's fine. I don't really want some ridiculousness going on. I also don't really care for what I've done with the vampire peak by accident. We're just going to kind of pull these a little more, whoops, to the side. I'm going to pull that one in, obviously, but these here need to go more, a little shorter and a little more to the side, I think. A little more cute. And this one needs to be redrawn, and then you just go in and click that like so, and you do create, have your shape back. What we need to do is just unhide that line and possibly put a point here and make a break there. We'll see. I'm also thinking that maybe these need to come up a little bit just to give a nicer curve to that whole piece. Trying to keep these from looking too blocky. We can obviously come in here with our curves, smooth any of that out. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with that, but I know that these are a little weird hanging down so far, so that can be better like this. I probably need another point in here somewhere. Not really sure. Maybe another peak, kind of doing one of these. And we can go and sharp those corners. Even add another little bit and a bit. It's all a matter of tweaking until it looks the way you want it. It's a little weird to me. Probably going to get rid of some of that line. I think that's a little long. Maybe even that part. Maybe even that one. Just so it feels a little more like just the bangs and less of too much stuff going up there. And then maybe take this one and add that a little bit back in there. Possibly. Since I'm doing this all with the add points tool instead of drawing it, it's a little less natural, so I have to go back and mess with it some. And I do not like that line there, so what we're going to do is add another point around here and hide that particular edge. So that's a little better, I think. All right, so now for our arms, I'm going to move them. We're going to have to make sure our origin points are right. So this arm, I'm going to put these uppers and lowers together to where we have them a little bit like almost in a group, but they're not. And when I move these, they're going to move incorrectly. So what I want to do is take this arm and turn it, and then I will go back and reposition what's happening here. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing my... there we go. And then you'll see they'll break. Which is exactly what I expected. So we'll go to the arm upper now and get it in its position. And then move the forearm into its position. This will be pretty much the arm when it's extended. And we can take that upper now and move these points around, or how and where they're supposed to be. If she was lifting her arm. In fact, we can take that sweater. Where is it at here? The main part here. Keep clicking on the wrong thing, and we can move this to be a little less weird there too. Maybe something kind of like that will be her arm when it's lifted up. We can take the ribbing of the arm, this forearm here, straighten that out to be less off to the side. Let's move that with all of these other lines. And that way they all move together. And then we'll take the actual forearm part here and move its points to a better spot. Like that. So that'll be this arm. I think it's a little thin toward the top though. So we're just going to playing with this until it just looks right. Something like that maybe. I think that the shoulder is a little weird. So I'm going to go back to the main sweater, which is, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time finding that layer. I'm going to pull this one up and pull this more to a shouldery kind of position there. I think that's a bit better now. Cool. Reminds me of Velma for some reason. We'll probably tweak some of this hair and stuff later on. And I'm not sure, but I might even make this hair back. It might make this whole thing tons easier to not have this dangly hair, because having that swap to the front and back is quite difficult. And I think I'm going to kill her other arm and just duplicate the other one. So the forearm and upper left, I'm just going to delete those after all that work. Now this is how it goes. We're going to take the forearm here in this one and we're going to duplicate those. I'm going to take those and kind of make sure they're next to each other. And then we're going to take the layers and flip them. And I'll have to reposition them, obviously, but because they're very wrong now. Before I do that, though, I'm going to group those together. That way I can flip them a lot easier and they stay consistent like that. Okay, now I should be able to take those, pull them out of that group and not screw anything up. Nope, not true.